SharePoint for project management is an extremely powerful tool, but the last thing you want to do is start using it and then it create issues because you're not doing it correctly. And in this video, I'm going to give you the top 10 mistakes people make when using SharePoint because you do not want that for yourself. It's too powerful of a tool. Just a little side note, if you're new to SharePoint and you have no idea how to create a page, don't worry. I actually have a step-by-step video for you that you can watch after this one. And I'm gonna put the link under this video so you can check it out afterwards. Not including a welcome page. It is so critical with SharePoint that when you have people come to your site, that you don't leave it as is when you first get it from your Teams or your Office Suite products, because it's just kind of thrown at you. You have the ability to customize it. And what you want to do is you want to create a welcome page. Think of it like an internet site. You want people to come to it and go, wow, there's some really good information here. And so that being said, making things look pretty on your welcome page is actually going to be really important. So what are some of the things that you really should be considering because you want to attract people to be going to it and start searching? Is first and foremost, welcome people and explain to them what the SharePoint site is all about. And since it's about a project, you want to tie in probably some key elements on there that you want people to have instantaneous access to. What are some of those things? Well, I always recommend you should always have your project scope statement on there. You may want to put some milestones, maybe some key deliverables, and more importantly, links to other real important project documentation that are going to be held in your files on the library to the left of your SharePoint site. So that becomes really important. You want to make it super organized and pretty so when people get to it, they know what to do and it's intuitive. Okay, let's go off the word 10. We have 10 project SharePoint mistakes I'm going to share with you, but I also have this, 10 project mistakes. I'm going to share with you a little bit later on how you can get your hands on this, so check it out. Not putting your scope statement front and center on your SharePoint site. Now, I already kind of touched upon this on the first tip about the welcome page. You should have it on there, but why am I really calling it out here? I'll tell you why. I can't tell you how many times I've been on projects, particularly as we're midway through, where people start to forget what the scope of your project is, and this is where scope creep comes into play. And it's a nice way just to go on the SharePoint site and remind yourself and other people, here's why we are together and what we're supposed to be delivering. Again, it's that high level sentences that is just ensuring that everybody knows what the project is about. And it's a great way if you're in the middle of a meeting and there's a little bit of heated debate, you can go back to the scope statement on the SharePoint site to just remind people what's going on. So it's a real valuable tool to use within your project, but also front and center on the SharePoint site as really a reminder so that people don't forget why it is that we're all here together trying to get this deliverable done. Not linking key documents on your homepage. All right, I love SharePoint. I use it constantly. I drive it. And one of the things I've noticed over the years is if I want my team members to use it, then I have to ensure I have key links that I want them to be accessing all the time on the homepage. I'll tell you why, because creatures of habit as humans, if we have to start clicking and clicking and clicking and going to different sites and other places, we tend not to do it. So any important document like your WBS action plan should be on the home page, that welcome page. Your charter, any type of key document that you have to reference, and sometimes I rotate them. I may have something going on that we're creating and I'll put that link for that period of time on the homepage so that when we have to get to it or if I'm referencing it, I just say, hey guys, go to the SharePoint site on the homepage and click on the link. That's how you can get to our document. Really important. Poor navigation. If you don't have your SharePoint site set up properly where people can't navigate it intuitively and it's just a little bit of a mess, even though you may have a homepage, you may have all that stuff, but if it's not sort of put together properly, then you're going to have a hard time people using it. The nice thing about SharePoint is they have lots of suggestions and tools that you can use to add on. They call widgets that you can put on your website and you can shift and move things around so that it does make sense. Again, this is a live document and depending upon where you are in the cycle of your project and what exactly are you doing, my welcome page, that home page, gets shifted. I may always have certain key things at the top, but I may start moving things that are in the center of it or in the middle part of the page so that people have that easy access. So as soon as they go on, they can see the key things that are really, really important. So again, really think about your navigation. If they have to start searching for stuff, I promise you they're not going to do it. So think of a new person not knowing where to go. Can they intuitively figure it out? And make sure you have all that information on that homepage so that they can do that. Not only do I have free content here on YouTube, I have something even better. Watch this. If you want to go to the next step with me and you want to learn more at a premium level, you can enroll in Slay Project Management. It's the exact process I use for all my clients, including all the tools you'll need. I've put the link in the description box below. Not setting up user permissions. Okay, it's really important in your SharePoint site that you want to have user permissions, particularly for certain groups. Your core team members should have permission to everything, to every single document. Now, why would I consider user permissions for anybody else? I believe in transparency. I think everyone should have access to everything, but you have to be careful because you may have an external source that you may not need them or want them to have access to all of your documents. So you may just have a special folder for them that they have access, and that's where user permissions come into play. You also have to be very careful that if your organization is an organization where they share everything with everyone, which is great, nothing wrong with that, you may want to think about giving some read-only status to individuals who are just there for the sake of being there so they understand high level what's happening. Why? Because there are times when unintentionally people go into your document, they're curious, your SharePoint site, they're searching up documents, they may even go into detail, and they may change something. And they have no clue that they did something to your document because, again, there's auto save, all that stuff is going on in the background. So you yourself may not even realize that they unintentionally changed something. So it's things like that you just want to consider and think through about your user permissions. Not having a standard process on how to use a SharePoint site. Your team, if they're using a SharePoint site, fantastic, congratulations. Oh my gosh, your life is going to be so easy. You now have a central location of where you're going to house everything. But if you don't have a process in place on how to use it, that is how you label your documents, where you put your documents, what happens quite quickly, it becomes a dumping ground and people just start dumping wherever they want to, wherever they think they can dump. Because there's places in your SharePoint site that you have files and other documents that you can do that with. So just make sure you're very clear on what those rules are. That is going to help you manage it. Inadequate version control. Now, this tip is for project just in general, let alone SharePoint. So it's so important that you know the version that you're working on. I can't tell you how many projects that I've been asked to consult on where I come in and then I see that they don't have good version control, and maybe you've experienced this as well, where people are working on the wrong version. And then all of a sudden, there's so much rework that has to happen because finally someone notices, hey, that's not the right version. Okay, so how do you do this? Because with SharePoint, it's a little bit better because you have everyone accessing the site, but I guess the thing with SharePoint you have to be careful with is you can sometimes link to documents, and if you're constantly clicking on an old link, and if you added a new document and you shifted things around. So how do you deal with this? So there's a couple things that I want to share with you. I always have the most latest version that I'm working on in the folder as its own entity. I don't hide it away. So latest version is if you need something and you will have an action plan, the WBS action plan. My latest version, when I click on the WBS action plan folder, is right there. I then have another folder within that that's called old or past, whatever it is, that I will, because I like to have multiple versions of things, I will then take that old version and I'll put it in the old folder. So I still have the traceability because that's important to me as a project manager, but I'm not mixing up and really messing up my folder of having all of these documents where accidentally someone can click on the wrong thing. Now, you need to ensure when you do your links that you're always linking to the latest document. And one of the rules that I have, this is a process rule, is I always say to people, I may send you links in an email. That's fine when I immediately send you something for you to look at, but it is your responsibility to ensure you're working off the latest version. And in order to do that, because I may be changing things in the background and I can't be notifying everybody constantly, is just to go into the SharePoint site. always go into the SharePoint site and click on wherever it is that you need, and you'll for sure always be guaranteed to have the latest version. So this is where these two tips go hand in hand. Overloading pages with content. This is another mistake that a lot of people make when it comes to SharePoint site. You have to understand one thing. It's really easy to be complex, and it's really easy to overload things with information. It's actually very difficult to simplify. It's very difficult to be streamlined because you really have to think it through. What is it that I really need? Is this critical? Should I really have this additional page? Because that is the cool thing about SharePoint sites. You can have multiple pages that are connected to your home page that you can be very specific with and direct people's attention to. But again, you have to be very careful because you can start creating your own rabbit hole, right? Where they go to your home page and they start clicking, and then they go down all these multiple pages. So just ensure you are not overloading your content. Really think it through and think of it from the perspective, not you as a project manager, but those stakeholders who are coming to the page. Again, the most critical things should be one click away. And if you have other stuff that they need to be aware of, then yeah, maybe build it on a separate page. But again, be careful with how you do that. Neglecting regular maintenance. Okay. SharePoint sites are great. I love it, but they don't take care of themselves. So you need to maintain it because again, if you just have it out there, and for those who use it, you know, if you don't check in regularly, it will get crowded with stuff quite quickly. So again, that's why you have to have your process. You have to understand where you want to place things, and you just have to regularly maintain it. Make sure that the rules that you've put in place with your process, you're actually following. Failure to monitor usage. Now, all software products, you have the ability to actually see who's using it. Okay, that's nothing new. That is one of the benefits and features that any software product will say to you. Yeah, you can see the usage, you can get reports on what people are doing. There actually is some value to that. Now, I'm not suggesting you go in and see how many times people have done stuff, but if you have something really important that you announced and you're like, hey, I need you to go to SharePoint site and ensure that you take a look at this document, you can then in the background see how many people have gone in to take a look at that document. So that can be your trigger to see whether or not you're going to put another email out saying, hey guys, don't forget my announcement. You have to go in. I notice only about half of you have done it. So that's how I would use that. And that's the type of monitoring that I would recommend. It just helps to ensure that when you have important things you want to push out, that you know whether or not it's working or not working. And as well, lets you know if you created a whole bunch of other pages or other information, are your team members finding it useful? Because are they actually using it? Okay, you're here, you made it. And you know what? Here are those 10 tips I was telling you about that I highly recommend that you look at and get. And how do you get it? Well, it's a link under this video that you can go and download. So the cool thing is it's free for you. So definitely take advantage of it. Make sure you watch this next video. It's the step-by-step instructions on how to build your SharePoint site. On that note, thanks so much for watching. If you can like this video, subscribe, and join this awesome community. Until the next time, see you later.